All right, it's going to YouTube. Which I need to connect you with your YouTube because you have a lot of followers, right?
Yeah, but I would confuse them.
It'll confuse them. Okay.
Because because the I think I would confuse them if I went live on my channel with this instead of the crafting without. I think they would be
okay.
Like I saw a guy who does quilting, and I was watching his channel, and then all of a sudden when I clicked on his video today, he was talking about
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, all of a sudden he was talking about something that was in the news. And I'm like, dude, why are you talking about that? I came to quilt with you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, let me put it on here. We are going live. They're going to have to come over to me.
Okay. I do have a person that would probably would love to see this though. She has a hair channel on YouTube, but is there a way to get the link or anything? No, not now.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay.
You almost need to start an hour ahead trying to just make sure the stuff works. You know?
No.
Give me a second. All right, hold on. Let me post this and then I will give you the YouTube link and we're going to get started.
Got it.
All right, I'm texting it to you right now, my boy. Let me know if you have it.
Okay, I'm gonna send this to. Thank you. I'm gonna send this to.
You weren't even having that. Let's sit up. Stand up. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. I'm gonna send this to. Okay, I got it.
Thank you for coming in. We're about to get started. Thank you so much. When you come in, please mute your lines. Let me know when you're ready, my boy.
Oh, I'm okay. I was just gonna send this to her in case she would like something like this. Let's see. But I'm ready if you want ready to go. We can.
All right. Greetings, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight again. I am Dr. Kiva Richmond Green. I am excited to have you here. We are talking about Eating for Your Mental Health podcast. So we will be on here weekly for about 4 or 5 weeks, leading up to the class that I will be having called Eating for Your Mental Health. It's going to be a 6-week class that's going to take you through the steps on how to help you strengthen your brain, strengthen your mental health. We'll talk about diagnosis. We'll talk about symptoms, and we'll always talk about, and of course, we'll talk about things that'll help you cure your mental illness or curb some of the symptoms you have. Again, disclaimer, we are not medical doctors here. We're not giving medical advice or legal advice. So got to put that out there first of all. We're just talking from our own experiences from battling mental illnesses and overcoming the stigma behind it. I am so excited tonight that we have our first guest, who's probably going to be with us for a couple of weeks because her story is so, oh my God, amazing. And it's so detailed that I don't think we're going to be able to do it in one night. And I don't want to keep us long here. So our first guest, I met Wambui about 2000, oh my gosh, 11 maybe, in Canada. We were both speaking at a conference in Canada, and learned her amazing story through her acting, through her gift and talent of acting, and sharing her story on stage. And we became fast friends. And so we've stayed in touch over the years, and now she's here to share. But before we get in there, Wambui, really quick, I just want to let everybody know that I have for years battled with severe depression myself, some anxiety as well. I would call it seasonal depression, because I seem to have those issues in the winter time, in the winter months when it get cold and dark outside. I would stay in my bed literally for days. I would not eat. I would only sleep. I was very depressed. I would literally not barely work or do anything. Thank God for a husband, because I probably would be homeless literally, because I really could not move. It was so debilitating that I did not understand why I was having these issues. And again, it was seasonal for me. So once the sun comes out and the spring comes back in, I was good. And but those 3 or 4 months of gloom, maybe a little more if it started in October-ish, when it started changing of the times, I could see myself dwindling down. So just speaking from someone who has had those issues, COVID 2020, 2019, 2020, I decided to change my life, change my diet, change the way I embrace mental health. And I just had some other physical ailments going on with my digestive system, and just a lot of things that was happening. And I was like, enough is enough. So I decided to just stop going to doctors looking for answers, and decided to pray and seek answers on my own. And it's been working for me. So we will get into my story more and more. And of course, if you take the class, you will learn more and more about that as well. But our guest tonight is Wambui, and I'm not going to mess up your last name. Bahati?
Bahati. Wambui Bahati.
Yeah. Wambui Bahati. And as I said, me and Wambui have, we met years ago, and we've remained great friends. And so
we liked each other immediately in Canada. I remember we just kind of like, it's like, oh, I like you. I like you.
I was just in New York, maybe 2 weeks ago, we hung out. So
yes.
About doing this podcast together, and I appreciate your time so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for agreeing to be on here with me. And let's go. So let's see how to start off. I don't even know your story. Like I say, is so in depth. It's so deep. Even your book, I was like, all the chapters, I'm like, whoa. So let's start with you. Let's just do an introduction.
Well, thank you, Kiva. Thank you. And thank you for having the insight and putting this concept together. And I just want to touch on this before I go on. You were talking about depression and seasonal depression. I know about that. I hear about that all the time, how certain times of the year, usually in the winter, October was always my worst month. October, for some reason, was just a bad month. Now, again, as Kiva has said, we're not medical people, and we're not pretending to be. Basically, what I'm saying is based on my personal experience here. But I have heard medical people say that in the winter of the sun is kind of diminished, and that the sun does play a part. In fact, they even sell those lamps that you can buy, different lamps to help brighten your room and make you feel better with that light. So, and also the other thing that I've heard medical people say is the vitamin D, which is a component that really can make you feel better. Well, you're not getting that as much in the winter because vitamin D we get it through the sun. And so when the sun is gone, we're missing a lot of nutrition and things like that. Okay, so my story starts, I'll give you a brief history of me. I was born and how many hours do we have? I was born in 1950 in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I was born into Jim Crow laws were still on the book. I didn't think anything about them because that was just how life was. That's how we lived. We had segregated schools. You sat in the back of the bus, and there was one movie theater that would let us in, the side door, and we'd sit in the very top. And so, well, fast forward, there was all that going on. It was just a lot going on. My father was an alcoholic, and we were that family. You could come home from school any day, and there might not be any electricity, or the phone might be off. You never knew. But when we left the house, we looked good, and nobody knew that there were things going on in the background, because my mother kept us together. She had us looking good. She made us speak well, and she just held everything together. When we went out anywhere, we just looked really good. No one would know that there was anything off kilter. And finally got to New York. I went to New York after high school. I wanted to be, in high school, I had fallen in love with the theater. And I read about a school in New York where you just took acting all day long. And so I ended up at New York University School of the Arts. And after that, that's when most of my problems started. And the thing that caught everybody's attention and realized there was something wrong here was when one day I was on my way to my dance class from my New York East Village apartment, which was only about 8 blocks away from where I lived, and I ended up in California. And I was in California. I was homeless. I was there for about 3 months, homeless. It never occurred to me that I could call somebody and it would be all right. I was just out there. And then after about 3 or 4 months, it's like, oh my God, what am I doing in California? I need to get back to New York. I got there because I had a TWA charge card, and so I had charged the trip. When I arrived, I had $20 in cash, and was just one of those people that we see on the street and they're wandering.
Yeah.
And at that time there were phone booths. So I would go to a phone booth and try to find, that was the thing, to try to find extra change. Right. In the phone booth. Ate a lot of popcorn because popcorn was really cheap. Anyway, when I came back, my friends at school thought, oh my God, I wish I had the nerve to just take off and go to California. You're so brave. And that was such an adventure. But my family was asking, okay, what just happened here? What just happened? But we didn't have a name for it. And no one said the word mental illness, and no one sent me to a doctor. It was just, okay, we're glad you're back. You're strange, but you're back. And then from there, it turned into depression. I was depressed all the time. And then was making just really bad decisions. But in between all of that, I got a role in a show. I was cast in a show called Godspell, that I was cast in a show that was opening at the Forge Theater in Washington, D.C. I was in the show, and while I was performing, I felt good. That was my lifeline, theater. So, but then it got to a point where I'd been doing the show for a couple of years. Everything was good. Nothing was bad. But for some reason, I felt suicidal. And I was unhappy, but I couldn't put my finger on why I should be so sad when I was in this so-called hit show and living the life in Washington, D.C. And we were considered the creme de la creme. And, but I took a bunch of pills and drank a lot of scotch, and that was my attempt to leave this world. So when I woke up, I was in a hospital, DC General in Washington, DC. And I thought, since I felt better, I'm like, okay, good. Thank you, people. I'm going home now. Thank you. And they said no. So that was my first experience in a mental health hospital. I should say a mental health ward.
Let's stop for a minute. Okay, breathe. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, first of all, I didn't realize we had so much in common. Okay, first of all, I grew up with an alcoholic, abusive father.
Mm-hmm.
Same situation. Like you said, when you leave the house, nobody would ever know. No one would know from the outside appearances that anything was going on in that house, because they definitely kept it together, looking pristine all the time. Kids, house, everything. Two, I fell in love with theater in high school, said I was going to New York at 18. I told my family, I'm leaving, I'm going to be a star. I'm never coming back. You can have my phone number, but you can't have my address, because my family would pop up on you. See, they're the type of people. So I had always told them they could have my phone number. They could never have my address, because I knew they would come see.
Okay.
18 happened. I got too scared to go, because I didn't see anybody there. So I didn't go.
Okay. I never knew that. I never knew that you were wanting to be in the theater when you were younger.
Actually, I wanted to be a singer. I love music. So singing was my passion. I was going to be a star.
Okay. Star. I hear you.
I always knew my name would be in lights. And so it's amazing. So those are things I was like, wow, okay, so much. And then so you just went to the airport and bought a plane ticket. You don't remember this, but
that was in the days when you didn't even have to apply for a credit card. They would just send out credit cards randomly to people.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up with a TWA charge card. I never applied for it, but it came in the mail one day. And so when I decided I was going to go to California, I thought, oh yeah, I can charge. If I get to the airport, I can just charge this flight.
Wow.
So, and that's what I did. And I do remember waiting when I arrived at the airport. I do remember just waiting for a long time, because it was in between TWA flights. So I had to wait. I had just missed the flight.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was in those days where nobody thought anything of you buying a one-way ticket.
Exactly.
There was no TSA, all of that. You just showed up.
911, all of the screenings, all the stuff we have to go through now. Absolutely. It was free fly back then. I mean, up until
you could even, like in the days where, let's say if you were going somewhere or you had come visit me, then I could come on the plane with you to make sure you were comfortable in there.
Right. I remember those days. Okay, so how old were you when you attempted suicide? How old? Just give us a
I was maybe, I'm going to say maybe 20.
Okay.
About 20. 19, 20, like that.
Leaving home. A year and a half, 2 years after leaving home. Okay.
Yeah. And I lived, like I said, everything was good. I had a high-rise apartment in some part of Maryland. I forget that area. It was a community in Maryland that was considered kind of like, high class and all that stuff.
But Bowie, what else? Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I just decided it's time to go. It's time to go. It's just like this pain that you feel. It's like, okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, how did somebody put this? And it explains exactly what depression is like. Okay, so I remember hearing about a 9/11. The people who were high up in the building, a lot of them just jumped. They just jumped.
Wow.
And after that, somebody said that's too bad that those people felt they needed to kill themselves. And somebody said, but what were they going to do? The fire, what were they to do? And someone else explained it, and this is what I believe. They said, that's like when people in everyday life, it's not 9/11, it's everyday life, and they feel like they need to leave this world. What we don't see, they see and feel that fire. They feel that pain. They're not aware that they have a choice. And so that's how it feels when you feel like you just want to leave. You feel like you don't have a choice. You feel the fire. You feel that pain. And it's like you feel like there's no way out. And of course, if anybody's listening to this who feels that way and has those thoughts, there is a way out. There is a way to, and I'm so grateful that at every turn, there was somebody there who said, nah, you're not leaving yet. Nope, not gonna die yet. In fact, I can laugh about it now, but there was one time, because there were several attempts, I took several attempts on my life, where the doctor was telling my family after I came back to, he was saying, we don't know. That was God, because there was nothing that we could do. All we could do was look. And the fact that she's still here, that was God.
Mm.
And then I always like to say, yeah, but he sent me a bill like it was him. He still sent me that bill. But I'm grateful that at every turn there was somebody that said, nope, not yet. You're not going. And so I survived. I'm able to smile. I'm able to laugh. I'm able to have a good time now. But I'm the same person, but I'm in a higher place.
Yeah.
I'm on a different journey.
I definitely understand.
The things that used to bother me, make me feel bad, they don't even bother me anymore. In fact, I like at this point to think of myself, and I'm going to get back into the story, but I like to think, I say that I am totally unoffendable. There is nothing you can say to me, racial, whatever. There's nothing you can say. Now, don't touch me, but there's nothing you can say that's going to make me feel any kind of way, because I feel like if you say something derogatory to me, you're the one who has the problem. And I know a lot of people say that, but I truly feel that way. And I'm not in the least concerned about your words, their words.
That's powerful. And it's amazing. And it's so freeing to be free of people. It's so free to, it's so great to be free of people. I just got there. I haven't been there long. So, but I totally understand what you're saying. I am in such a different place in my life. I feel the burden lifted off of me. I don't feel that heaviness or that weight on me that I used to always feel around people, and I mean, feeling judged, feeling confused, feeling, all those
less
things.
than, feeling like you're making mistakes, feeling like you can't figure out life. Well, I don't think anybody's can figure out life. But the good news is that now I know, okay, we're not going to figure this out.
Ever. We're never going to figure this thing out. Going to our grave. So absolutely, but I love it. So
one of the things is that it drove me crazy trying to make life make sense.
Oh, yes.
And it was when I realized, okay, life is not going to make sense. So now let's just keep it moving. And once I let go of trying to make life make sense, then it was like you said, just free. You're free. Okay, you're free.
Because I know I don't want to get ahead, because like I said, I plan on having you here for a couple of weeks.
I'm going to get a tissue and I'm going to be right here. Okay, go ahead.
I just think about the trauma in our early childhood, I think, contribute to these belief systems, these thought patterns, these behaviors, which led us to that place of mental illness, right? Or mental health issues. And so, you know, maybe not being verbal. I know for me, I wasn't verbal about my experiences, because when you have an alcoholic or a abusive person in your family, you tend to learn how to get out the way. I did anyway. I learned how to get out the way.
For the credit of my father, I must say that my father was not abusive, at least not, you know, he never put his hands on us, but just the fact
mental
that
abuse.
It was like, so
in the state of drunkenness, right?
And the uncertainty that we all felt, the uncertainty. Now,
he was never abusive to the kids. I would have never said. I think he was an excellent father to me. You know, I was the only girl, so I was his world. I got anything. But of course, my mother got the brunt of the abuse, and my brothers got the verbal abuse, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And so, but what I'm saying is, I can see how not knowing what temperament was going to walk in the door at any moment.
Right. That was the thing.
Everybody that oh my God, I was going to say shell shock, but that war syndrome, almost like braces.
Yeah, where you're not sure.
You're never sure. No.
And
I had freedom because I did have freedom, but I learned how to watch people my whole life. So I watch behaviors. So I'm noticing everybody else is afraid. So what is happening, right? So it took me to a place of pay attention, close your mouth, if that makes sense. Close your mouth, pay attention, get out the way. And so I was always that type of person. So but it always put me in a, what is the word I want to say? A fight or flight stage in my life, if that makes sense. So I'm always watching to see what the outcome is going to be for people. I maybe that's why I'm a therapist. I'm a behaviorist, because I watch behavior. And so I think that's where it came from, because I was always watching to see if anything going to jump off at any moment, so I can know how to plan and prepare to get out the situation. So that is traumatizing to your brain, to always be in a ready mode.
Well, you know, something else too, that I really think contributed to people my age having feeling some type. Okay. We were those people who were taught to get under your desk if there was
a tornado, or
because it was always Russia or somebody was going to attack us.
That's true. Yeah.
And every Saturday there would be this, they'd say it was a test every Saturday at noon, the loud alarm. And so as a child, I always felt, well, are they going to attack us? Yeah. When are they coming? And why wouldn't they come Saturday at noon when you're doing the test? Why, you know? So I was actually also very fearful of whatever was going to attack us, attacking.
Right.
You know, and I guess that's why also today I'm just feeling like maybe I shouldn't say this, but I do feel like whatever. I just don't have the fear anymore. I just feel like it's going to be taken care of. God has got this. Absolutely. And I can do my part. If somebody tells me, get your gold and silver in order, get your food, have some food, then I'm going to do that. I'm going to prepare, but I can't worry about what might not happen.
Really will happen. That's good though. I'm glad you said that, because I didn't even think about those things in school when we prepared for tornadoes or storms, or like you said, the alarm that went off. And then see, I grew up with my grandmother who put fear in me every day because she watched the news all day.
Okay, there you go.
Kidnap you with the white van, or somebody gonna snatch you off the street, or somebody gonna break in. So all those fears in your brain comes, and then you got to try to figure out how to be normal. Like, how do I be normal when I'm afraid all the time?
Well, that's why I think of think of the little children, like my grandchildren are 5 and 7. So for the past 2 years, they've lived in fear.
Wow,
The fear
yes.
has just been like, oh, you might die, you might, and they got to wear this mask. And so, yeah, well, so when they grow up, what issues are they going to have on top of just the regular life issues? And also now they have the fear of, oh, Russia, again, it's still Russia. Russia's going to get us. And, we're going to go to war. And, and you just feel, how are you able to just like be, especially if you live in a house where they have the TV on.
All the time. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is why, I don't have a TV. I haven't had a TV since right after since 2002. I haven't owned a TV, and it's been
the best,
fabulous.
I was gonna say it's probably the best decision you ever made.
Yes. Now I'm not saying there are no TVs in this house. I live in a house with other people, and my relatives, they love their TV, but I don't watch it, and I don't have one in my space. I don't have one. And
okay, so
anyway, so then I was after came back from California, depression, tried to commit suicide, had my first stay in DC General. I feel like there were some people there who were looking out for me that worked in the hospital. Not necessarily the doctors. In fact, they were people that were called orderlies. Do we still have orderlies?
Yeah. I do.
Okay. All right. The orderlies. And I wish I could find some of these people who are like my angels and thank them, because one of the orderlies at the hospital would bring me my medication. And he would say to me, take that and that, put that under your pillow. Now, this is illegal, what he was doing. And I don't think this was illegal. I don't think it could happen today because there's so many.
Not at all, but yeah.
But he said that. He said, take this and this, put that in your pillow, I'll get it later. And I thought he was trying to mess me up. And I said, no, the doctor told me I need to take all this. And he said, look, take that, put that under your pillow. I'll be back. And I wanted to have an argument with him. But you're not the doctor. How you going? And he said, you see that lady over there? And there was a lady that was just, she was lost. She was gone. He said, she takes this.
She take all of that.
You don't want to take this. And so to this day, I wonder what would have happened if, like, from working there, he knew that this was, you're not coming out of here if you take this. And so, I thank God that I call him my angel on the psych ward, and he looked after me and, and would check out everything they were giving me. And he'd say, okay, that's okay. Okay, that's okay. You can take that. And let me tell you this is, I know it happened. People know it happened. I don't know how it happened. And what I'm about to tell you, like I said, I was in the show at Washington, D.C. at Ford's Theater. I do remember that after I'd been at the hospital for like a week, maybe the second week, I do remember a car coming to get me, take me to Ford's Theater. I would do my show, get back in the car, and come back to the hospital, DC General Hospital.
I believe it. I believe it because I know they do that for stars, for celebrities.
I don't know. It was like I just lived at the hospital, but when it was showtime, it's like showtime. The car's here. Go and go do the show and come back to the hospital. And so then after a few days of that, they put me in a halfway house.
Okay.
And I really didn't like it there. It was just, it was just too weird. It was too strange. I didn't know why I was in a halfway house. I didn't, and the people were not nice to me.
So was it nurses there? Was it people there that still?
No, it was like just living in a home. It went to somebody, it was like a house.
Yeah.
And you lived, it was like to transition.
Right.
I guess to transition you back into the world.
Yeah. But that's interesting that they would take you from a mental hospital to a room, to a transitional or a rooming house.
I have questions about the doctor or the doctors that were that had my case. I feel like I really do feel like they were not really trying to help me. I feel like they weren't really trying to help me because they did really. If it weren't for the orderlies and the other people who worked in the hospital, I think I would still be in that hospital.
Wow.
And then for them to send me to a halfway house anyway. So I think I just left. I just and said left. I gotta get me out of here. So I just left. And that was that.
What happened to your apartment with all that time? Your high rise?
Huh?
What happened to your high rise all that time? Did you just lose it?
Oh yeah. So I went back there and I went all this time I had a place. You know what I'm saying? So that was why it just was like really weird that I would go here. So I just went back to live, and the thing was, all of a sudden I was happy. It was like, that's why anybody that if you feel like you need to take your life, give it a few more days or weeks, because things do change so quickly.
Absolutely.
You just could be on the edge of something wonderful happening. So just hang on. Hang on.
Talk about your diagnosis while you were in the hospital. What did they diagnose you with?
Well, then it was just mostly, I just kept hearing about depression. Okay. But then as things went on, I continued to do shows. I started doing other shows. Again, the theater was my life. I lived to hear my cue. That was my life.
Right.
But when I wasn't on the stage, I had some therapists that I would see and different doctors and things like that. And on the road with medication and all that kind of stuff. And I think the next big thing happened was I was in a tour of The Wiz, and my husband at that time, I had already gone through an abusive husband. And so then when I got the...
You can't skip over that, because the abusive husband is who you do your play out of, right?
Yeah. There was the abusive husband.
We can't skip over that.
But then I met the nice husband.
Well, we can't skip over the abuse. We can't skip that.
So the abusive husband, I met when I was doing a show in New York called Two Gentlemen of Verona. And he wasn't in the show. He worked in the park where the show, it was like theater in the park type thing. And he was somebody working in the park in the show. And he just said all the right things, He just knew all the right things to say.
How old were you? How old were you?
Okay, by now I'm like 20, maybe 23.
Okay.
Like that, 23. Oh, wow. Yeah, about 23, if not 24.
Just trying to think of your mind frame, age, looking at the timeline.
And but I grew up as a person that I think if anybody from my high school hears this, they'll say I was pretty popular. But and I had a lot of friends that were both guys and girls. However, as far as a boyfriend and all that kind of thing, I had every now and then a boy that was my boyfriend, but I never felt comfortable around guys. I was never.
You never had a real serious relationship.
Not until I married my the first husband. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, so how long did you date him?
Not long enough. now I know, not long enough. Oh wow, maybe was it even a year? I don't even know if it was a year.
Okay.
I don't even know. It was It seemed like a very short time. And then there were always, like we hear when we go to the, when we speak at the domestic violence conferences, everyone always tells you about the telltale signs, but they didn't, I call it the writing on the wall, but they didn't read that writing. So there was writing on the wall.
Of course, but you didn't have experience. You didn't know what to look for. You didn't know what to expect. You hadn't had any experience in that area, right?
Right, and like he was so smooth, you know, he was so smooth.
That's it. They're always charismatic.
And he was an actor. He was an actor, and he was just knew. He just knew how to play me like a fiddle. He could play me like a fiddle.
Charismatic. They have that personality that just draws you in.
Yeah, and he was real good looking and said all the right words. And when I would voice my concerns and I'd say, oh no, then the comeback was, girl, he's so cute, and listen to him, he's so fine, and listen how he talked, you know. And right away after we got married, here's the thing too, is that I was already right away like the breadwinner, you know, like I was the one that was working. And so I was the one who had the apartment. I was the one. And so he and then it was shortly after that his tone changed. All of a sudden he wasn't talking so nice, except when people were around. When people were around, it was like, oh, he was so smooth and sweet. And, you know, I was on a pedestal up here. But then when people weren't around, he was just this really awful person. And it was first just started as verbal abuse. And then it actually turned into physical abuse. Okay. And I reacted to that with embarrassment. I was embarrassed. So I didn't discuss it with anyone because I just felt like I made this awful mistake and now I gotta figure it out, but I can't talk about it because it's embarrassing. That I felt embarrassed.
Which is normal, right?
And that's the other thing that I always tell when we go to the conferences is I tell people, you gotta tell somebody. You gotta tell somebody. You know, even back in the day, they used to have those they were called psychic hotlines. Yeah, I remember that. You could call there, because I admit it, I worked a few years later, back in the 80s, I worked as a 800 psychic person, and you get calls from these women who just want to tell somebody. You just need to get it out. Not going to judge them. Exactly. They just need to verbalize it. They need to be able to say it. And but okay, so getting back to, so it escalated into physical abuse, and the worst physical abuse incident, I ended up at the hospital to get a few stitches. And there was a female cop standing behind him, and she was saying to me and mouthing, she was saying, press charges. And then there was a time when he left the room, and she came to me and she said, okay, you need to press charges, okay? And I said, no. Now, I think in New York now, I don't think every state is like this, but I think in New York, if that were to happen today, that police could arrest him. They don't need consent to arrest. I don't need to press charges. But in those days, I needed to be the one to press the charges. And I guess at that, you know, that thing of, at that moment you feel sorry for him, or blah, 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 you know, it's going to be okay. He said he was sorry, you know, so, Lord have mercy. And then, but then it escalated after that. And then I was doing a lot of road shows. And again, you know, I was pretty much happy. Could be a life of a party. I was no one knew that this was happening, but I was so happy to be on the road where he was not.
I was just about to ask you, did he go with you?
No. In fact, it was on the road where I finally could think clearly and realize this was not what I wanted. And but the mistake I made was telling him that from the road.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
So when I got home to my apartment, none of my things were there. So it was like I ended up leaving that apartment to get away from him. And then maybe about a year and a half later, I thought, oh, wait, that was my apartment. And I went back to get my apartment, and the people said, that's what I'm talking about, leaving a trail. Well, it's your word against his.
Right.
We don't have any documents, no police records. Nobody knows about this. So you were legally married. We can't throw him out. You can come back, but I wasn't going to come back. So to this day, he lives in my apartment. Well, serious? Yeah. I mean, it was a rental. So it wasn't like it was a co-op or something like that. It was a rental, but he's still there to this day.
He's still there to this day.
I did go let the people know, take my name off of everything, because I didn't want to be responsible for anything he may.
Right. Or may not do. Right. May not pay, may not do. Right.
Right. But it was definitely my apartment. That's one of my biggest regrets in life. If I regret anything, it's the fact that I did not fight for my apartment.
Well, hold on. Because I mean, like you said, you're not in a mental state at that time to even process or think clearly, right? I mean, who's thinking sanely at this point? You just trying to get to your freedom and your safety. Did you have kids then?
No, I didn't have any kids.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have any kids.
You like
at that time. Thank God, thank goodness we didn't have any kids. So I did seek a lawyer to for the divorce and everything. And so he was always calling saying, well, if we just get together and talk, I'll tell you where your things are and blah, blah, blah. And the lawyer said, you can get some new things, harder to get a new face. Okay, so let's just do this and let's not go back. And so, so that was that. Then met the second husband. By that time, I'm not trying to play him small, but by that time, all you had to do was not hit me, and I was in love with you. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy I can laugh about this stuff now. But so yeah, so he was a good person. It wasn't until after the kids came that we realized we really didn't have that much in common, because basically he lived without the kids. When we didn't have kids, he did his thing, I did my thing, you know, and we were happy. But then when the kids came, then it was like different responsibilities and different things that had to be taken care of. And so that's when we realized, okay, you know what?
It's not gonna work.
Yeah, this is not gonna be a good thing here. But it was all during that period though, that it was when my what I was going to say was when I took my second husband on the road as the nanny to take care of we had a 3-year-old daughter.
How many years between the first husband and second husband?
Okay, so I'm gonna say between husbands?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe a year or less.
Okay, that's normal.
Husbands.
I'm glad you said that. Okay.
Yeah, and then so then we got married, and then my first daughter came along, and when she was 3, I went to do a tour of the Wiz, and my husband came along as the nanny, which was great because it meant that we were all together. But then I got pregnant with my second daughter,
Mhm.
And what happened there that started the whole depression and everything again was that the second daughter came in prematurely. The fifth month, she was trying to come. And when I was 5 months pregnant, she was trying to come. And so the doctors offered to abort the baby. They said, well, she's not going to make it. And we said, no, we'll see. And they said, well, then in order for this to happen, you have to leave the show. So there we were.
Oh, I thought I was sorry. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so we said we didn't want, if there was any chance at all for the baby to come, then we wanted the baby. So they said, well, that means that you can no longer travel with the show. And I was put on bed rest and everything. Long story short, the baby was born the day I hit 6 months. She came in weighing just over a pound. She could fit in my hand. Her legs used to hang down like that.
Wow.
Okay, so that the worry about that and everything started everything all up again.
Okay.
And while everybody was concerned about the baby, which they should have been, nobody was noticing me. I was not even present. I had left. I had gone. I threw away my phone book because, you know, before we had cell phones, all of our numbers were in these little books, address books we had.
I remember those.
I threw away all my address books because I was never going to call anybody and I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I just, from there, was off and on, in a hospital, out of a hospital, in a hospital. I'm talking mental hospitals, off and on, about when the baby was about 3 or maybe 4, maybe 5, we were divorced. And then that just set a whole nother wave of things happening because financially I wasn't prepared to be out there with my kids alone. And it was, so I was in and out. I had a lot of help from my mother. I moved back to North Carolina. Thank God my mother was there to help and other family members. And it was pretty much seemed like it was just never gonna turn around. Just never. I was just like progressively, it seemed getting worse. And that's when they started. In fact, here, I usually read this when I'm about to do a presentation at a mental health conference. And this is just some excerpts from the letter that I received from Social Security Administration. I'll just read it. Just some
book that was like, whoa, but go ahead.
That's the prologue of the book. I'm just going to read a few little excerpts. It says, let's see, we'll start. Okay, I'll read this. The claimant has a bipolar disorder and a personality disorder, which are considered to be severe under the Social Security regulations. It says, the claimant has a long history of psychiatric hospitalizations and long-term outpatient psychiatric treatment with counseling and medication. In spite of this treatment, the claimant continues to experience regular relapses. And it says, Dr. somebody performed an ability to do occupational performance. Anyway, it says, I had, depending on the day, I had from good to no ability to perform personal occupational things. I was just, anyway, it was, so bipolar was the word that they were using a lot with me.
So this is perfect segue. This is going to be going into segue 2, but this is perfect. So in between the marriage and having the kids, you still were seeing a therapist? Is that true?
In between the marriage and having the kids, yes. I was like never without a therapist somewhere.
Were you ever hospitalized again in between those times, between the first time and this diagnosis?
Say the second, what you just.
Were you ever hospitalized again anytime between the first hospitalization and this diagnosis that you got with the Social Security Administration?
Yes, I had been in and out a lot. Yeah, a lot. And sometimes I didn't want to leave because I got comfortable in the hospital.
And you didn't have the responsibility over you.
Yes, there was something I wanted to say. I've just lost my train of thought. But yes, I was in and out a lot. Oh, okay, as before you leave this, then I wanted to share this piece because for a long time, I didn't know this piece. And I think it's a key. I think it's the key to everything that happened, because the first sign that something was really, really wrong happened in New York City when I was at college at New York University. And I made that trip where I went to California. Okay.
California. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I know now is when I was just before that California trip, I was raped viciously by a person. Okay. But it was so bad, I pretended that it didn't happen.
Blocked it out.
So yes. So in all those years, when I was in and out of the hospital, in the therapy, seeing the psychologist, seeing all these people in group therapy, I never talked about that because in my head, that never happened.
How old were you when it happened?
About 19.
It happened at college.
Yeah.
So it was the onset.
That was the onset.
And that was the onset to
the trip to California and then everything spinning out of. But I never mentioned it because the only way I knew to deal with it was I was never here. This never happened.
Yeah, you put it so you could survive.
And it wasn't until actually just when I decided, I was given the inspiration to write my book from reading a book. The book is called Project Girl. You know that book? Project Girl. Oh God, I wish I could recall her name. But that was the inspiration because she told her story in that book called Project Girl. And it was a very similar story about at NYU rape, but no one believed her. She talked about it, but no one believed her. And it got to the point where she was setting fires in the dorm. Like that was her way of being not present. She was
right. Oh my God. Okay, perfect, perfect stopping point. Okay. Oh my gosh. So, oh my God, week 2 is gonna be excellent because this is great. You're leading right into where we want to go next week. We're going to talk about the other hospitalizations, talk about when that image came back in your forefront for you and what that meant for you and what that brought on, because I'm sure a lot of things happened after that. You were able to verbalize that.
That was my aha moment.
Gosh. Okay. I love it. Okay, so I know we're supposed to be talking about eating for your mental health. We're gonna get there, people. I promise we're gonna get there.
We're gonna eat. We're gonna eat.
Leading up to how to heal. But you got to get the baseline of the story first. And like I said, this is so juicy and so good that her story is so in depth. I mean, she's 70. How old are you, Wambui?
Right now, I'm 72.
72 years of wonderful life.
Yes.
So, we have a lot of digging to do. Thank you so much again for being here. Like I said, I don't want to be long. I don't want to be
right.
Long.
I know. Yeah, nobody wants that long show. But thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share my story.
Yeah, so we'll be back here next Wednesday. What is today? The 6th. So that's the 13th. April 13th at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully we can get the Facebook and the Instagram and other things to work by then. But if not, I'm going to upload this as well to those to those sites so people can go back and watch them and share.
Right.
But we will be back here next Wednesday, same time, same place. Again, this is Eating for Your Mental Health. We're talking about ways to heal your mental health. Also, we're talking about the process of things leading to having mental health problems, mental illness, mental issues. So, hey, I love it. I'm so excited to be here with my friend, Wambui Bahati. She is awesome actress and just a beautiful person, as you all will find out as we go along. But join us right here, same place, same time. It'll be the same Zoom link next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Hold on, Wambui. Make sure I shut off everything. It's not still recording.
I hear you. I hear that's right. I know that's right.
YouTube and been
I know that's right. Yeah. Okay.
but awesome.
Okay, so it still says live on YouTube. Are we still live on YouTube?
Okay, see, no, we shouldn't be.
Oh,
Let's just make sure. Let's look. Yep, we were. So,
yeah, we're still live. No, are we? It still says live on YouTube. Are we still live on YouTube?
okay, see, no, we shouldn't be. Oh. I'm trying to shut it off. Well, let's do this. We're gonna